Hello friends and welcome to the next episode of the robotics and embedded tutorials for beginners. So today we are going to talk about the interrupt. So let's talk about that. What is the interrupt? So an interrupt is a condition that causes a microprocessor to temporarily work on a different task and then later return to its previous task. Interrupt can be initial or external. Okay, it's just an a definition. So uh, if we talk in a practical life that what is an interrupt, then interrupt is a kind of condition which cause you to go and done the specific task and return on your previous task, like you are studying any subjects, or you are solving the problem of mathematics, and suddenly your phone rings. Then you pick up the phones and talk with the another person, and then put the phone and it again start the studying. So that phone call is an a kind of interrupt which comes. You stop your main program and you execute the another program, and then after execute that program you again start your program from the step where you have left. So this is an practical definition of interrupt. So interrupts, there are two kinds of interrupt, like external interrupt or internal interrupts, which are available in our Atmega. In this tutorial video we will talk about the external interrupt. Internal interrupt is a kind of timer interrupt which we will talk in our next tutorial. So today we are going to talk about the external interrupt. So how to call any function in the middle of the code, like if there is an huge code which is running continuously and suddenly you want to change something in the middle of the code, which you have written in your interrupt part. Then how will you call that code? By giving any kind of signal. This signal may be rising state or falling state, or any change, like you are at rising and suddenly you give this spin on the falling state, and then the interrupt function will calls. So this is in theoretically part. Let's work on it, then we can understand some better that how what is the interrupt and how it really works. Like this is an our LED, which the circuit which we have done in our previous lecture. So let's suppose there is an integer I, okay, which prints its value on the our LCD, and we want to print that its value again and again, and I used to give an increment in his value when we press one button. Then how will we draw an circuit? Like there is an button, when we press this button there is an increment in I. Like I will take a button and I will took it and connect it there. Then I will give you a power supply. Okay, I have to take a register so that I can draw the pull down circuit. Okay, I will take a register. Now I will give him the ground. I will set its value to the 1k. So fine. Now there is an problem statement in front of us, like if we press the button once, then there is an increment of I one time. Then let's talk about the coding part of this one. Like this is an our LCD setting, and there is a printing part. This is an S, which is an integer, and I will remove this age portion. So there was an integer age which prints the value uh, of an integer. Then I want to give an increment in the value of age. When we press this button, then I will write the code in the while one. Like Sorry. I will take the entire code. Okay, now I will dump the code. There is an error. What is this? Okay, I have to give an increment in a age. So when we press the button, the value of age get increases and it prints on the LCD screen. So compile the code. Fine. So now I will dump this code in my Atmega. Set the frequency of at 8 megahertz. Fine. So there is a 19 and I have code that when this pin is on higher state, then value in age get increment by 1. Then let's see. I press the button and it goes on 50. Then why it's done? So again look at in the code. Like this is an while one part. When you press this button, you press it for more than 1 second, or let's suppose more than half second. But in your half second, this while one loops used to run more than 1,000 times or 100 times, so that your age get increased by 1,000 times or 100 times. So you can't write this code here. So if you want to, if you wanna try that my code execute only once when I press the button one time, then you have to go for the interrupt. So that's the basic use of interrupt, to execute the code for one time at the calling of once. So for interrupts, there are some particular pins in our Atmega. So let's see that where are those pins. So in our Atmega, there are three interrupt pin. One is here, interrupt 0. One is here, interrupt 1. And one is here, interrupt 2. There are three interrupt pin in our Atmega which we can use for the interrupt part. So okay, then I will go for the coding part, that how to code for the interrupt. New project. It takes some time. Okay, fine. Then for interrupt setting, there is an option external IRQ. Then just click it here. There are three interrupt pin: interrupt 0, interrupt 1, and interrupt 2. The which one you want to be enabled. Let's say I want to enable the interrupt 0 pin. I will just click here. Then there is an mode, that when you want to call the function. At low level there are four options: any change, falling age, rising age, or low level. There is no use of low level. I will go for the any change, falling age, or rising age. If your pin goes on the rising age, then the interrupt function will call. If your pin goes on the falling age, then your interrupt function will call. And this option is for, yeah, at the any change your interrupt function will call. Then I will click on this option. Oh, okay, on rising age I want to call the interrupt function. I will just click it here, and I will go for the LCD setting where I have done the LCD, set the LCD like this. On the C port I will do it because I have done the circuit on the C port. Fine. Generate, save and exit. So interrupt, program name is interrupt. Fine. This is our regenerated code. Then I wanna show that where is a okay. You can see when I go for the interrupt setting, then this part generated automatically. This part. Here is a part where we can code for the interrupt. This is a function where we can code for the interrupt and enter your code. Here I can code something for interrupt. Then those registers are the regenerated according to our setting. Here we have set for the interrupt 0. Then I wanna show that where is an interrupt 0, external interrupt. Yes, this is an external interrupt 0 part. You can see interrupt 0 on, mode rising is, interrupt 1 off, interrupt 2 off, and this is a register setting for the interrupts like GICR 14 is 0. And if you are an embedded programmer, then you have to study about all those register speed which you can search on the net or just Google it. And if you are looking for a robotics programming, then there is not a great use of studying all those things. Just mug it that how those pins are working and how to use an interrupt in a microprocessor programming. If you are interested in the deep part that how those register works, then just go and Google it. Then there is an while one part. Then there is an global interrupt pin is declared here. It shows about the global interrupt pin. Then I will write the same code again. I will declare an integer a is equal to 0. Then I will declare, sorry, I have to declare this integer global just because I want to use the same integer in that interrupt part. Then I have to declare an string. Then when the interrupt calls, then the value of a get increased once. Here we will write the code for the LCD. Like I will go for the and I will use the I to a comma string. Then I will print that string. Okay, for I to a, I have to declare the LS library. Fine. Now I will build the code. Okay, function arguments are too many in the integer. Okay, here I have done a mistake. I have to write the string one. Fine. So I will build the code in there. It dumps automatically, but I have to connect this pin to the interrupt 0. Where is an interrupt 0? It is on. Let's see that where is an interrupt 0. Interrupt 0 on pin D2. This one is interrupt 0. Then I will connect the pin on the interrupt 0. Pin D2. Here it is. So I will connect it and I will start the code. Sorry, I have to dump the code, the interrupt code. Okay, and I will just run it. Here you can see the 0 is printed, and when I click the button, it goes on the interrupt function and increment in the value of a once like this. It doesn't matter how long you have pressed the button, but it works the function at a one time, only one time. The basic use of interrupt function is in a games and robotics, and if you are making any kind of interrupt circuit, then there are great use of interrupt programming part. So this is our basic tutorial on the interrupt of external interrupt. In our in our next tutorial we will talk about the internal interrupt and timer and PWM circuits. Okay, fine, then wait and watch. We are coming with some exciting projects. These are the basic parts. First, there is first need to understand all those things. Thank you.